So I will call the meeting to order for April 9th, 2021 of the Bloomington Monroe County MPO Policy Committee. I'm Lisa Ridge, Monroe County Highway. And then I guess I'll just say a name so you can introduce yourself instead of anybody talking over each other. Pam?
I'm Pamela Samples. I'm Ellisville Town Council.
Kent?
Kent McDaniel, representing Bloomington Transit.
Steve?
Hi, sorry, Steve Voland, City Council.
Penny?
Monroe County Council. Commissioner, I'm sorry, I was outside today and it's thrown me off.
Kate?
Kate Wiltz, Monroe County Council.
Sarah?
Sarah Ryder-Ben, MPO CAC.
Chris?
Chris Wallman, NDOT.
And Lou?
Lou May, Bloomington Transit.
Thank you. And then, of course, we have Patrick Martin and Ryan Clemens, our great MPO staff.
Thank you.
Approval of the agenda?
Please move the approval of today's agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Would you want to do the roll call, Ryan?
Sure. Samples.
Yes.
Ryder-Band.
Yes.
McDaniels.
Yes.
Volan. Yes. Ridge.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Wallman.
Yes.
Gittens.
Yes.
That is 8-0.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next is approval of the minutes from March 12th, 2021.
Move for approval.
Second.
And I believe, was there a correction, Pat, that you had sent around in email?
Yes.
Okay.
Penny noted a correction in there where there was a reference to Lou's departure, impending departure. We won't let him leave.
Okay. So the motion is with that amendment into the minutes.
I'm sorry, I can't bring up the minutes here. I can't print on my printer. So what was the correction about Lou?
Okay. I'm sorry, just a second.
Yeah, we bought a new printer. It's supposed to work over our wideband, but it doesn't.
It was under communications from committee members, non-agenda items. Kent McDaniel stated the Bloomington Transit has initiated a search for a new general manager with the impending retirement of Lou May at the end of 2021. That's the corrected text.
Okay, we don't know exactly when, but that's approximately right.
Okay.
Lou May's retiring? No.
It's true.
No.
Well, we're going to hold him captive, so he'll never be able to go.
So we have that motion and a second with the correction. Do you want to do a roll call, Ryan?
Sure, we just had 4 more people join the meeting, so I'll add their names to the roll call list.
Okay.
Um,
So we have Jason Bannock has joined us, Nate Nickel, and Margaret Clemens, and Scott Robinson. I think that's everyone.
Yes.
Lisa, I just
for the minute.
wanted to say that I have been waiting, trying to get on since 1:25, but it said the host wouldn't let me in. So that's where Nancy was.
Gee, Pat.
I believe I was just made the host, so
Had the same problem, Jason.
Okay.
So I should be able to share my screen now and all of that as well.
Okay. So I
We
think we're ready.
apologize.
I also had the same problem, just to weigh in on that. Thank you.
Okay, yep, we got everyone now. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry about that.
So with the minutes and the correction to the minutes, I will start the roll call with Ryder-Band.
Yes.
McDaniels.
Yes.
Volan.
Yes.
Ridge.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Wallman,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Bannock,
I'll abstain because I didn't hear all the corrections and stuff.
Clements,
You're on mute, Margaret.
I'll have to say no because I didn't hear the corrections.
Robinson,
I'm going to abstain because I did not hear the corrections. Thanks.
Nickel,
I will abstain also since I missed the corrections.
What is the vote? The total vote tally?
just a minute, I'm tallying it up. It is 8-1-3.
Okay, so the minutes pass. Communications from the chair, I do not have any. Reports from officers and or committees, the Citizens Advisory Committee, Sarah?
Yeah, the CAC met. We recommended approval of the UPWP, and we met with staff for the Coordinated Human Services Public Transportation Plan and had a very productive conversation and made a number of suggestions. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Technical Advisory Committee, I think that's Lou.
Yeah, the Technical Advisory Committee met and also reviewed the draft 2022 Unified Planning Work Program, and we also recommend approval to the Policy Committee. That's it.
Great, thank you. So we have reports from the MPO staff, the 2022-2026 Transportation Improvement Program call for projects.
Hey, this is something that we covered at the last meeting, but I wanted to reiterate it again since we still have 3 weeks left before the deadline. The MPO has initiated a call for projects for the fiscal year 2022-2026 Transportation Improvement Program. The schedule is in your packet. The call for projects was initiated on March 15th. The application deadline is April 30th. We will have behind the scenes, the staff will complete a policy committee project scoring information sheet. These are advisory, and we will have that for May 14th. Then May 26th is when we will start going through the list of projects with the Citizens Advisory Committee and the Technical Advisory Committee. We will have a draft document to you, the Policy Committee, by June 11th. And then over the summer, we will conduct a 30-day public comment period, followed by a final draft, which will be in August, and then adoption in September. Penny had asked me a question prior to the meeting, and I gave her a long answer on how we go about determining the priorities of projects. And the projects are scored on an advisory basis, and then it's up to the local public agency applicants themselves to determine the priorities and the allocation of the funding. We receive an overall funding of approximately $3.9 million in fiscal year 22. It's slightly over 4 million, but 3.7, 3.9 is typically what we produce in any given year. We anticipate additional funding at the end of this calendar year, simply because of the money coming down from Congress with the with the CARES Act, with the infrastructure bill, and also reauthorization of the highway bill, or public transportation and highway bill later on this calendar year too. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Patrick. Seeing no questions or comments at this time. American Rescue Plan Summary.
Okay, this is in your packet. We received this from the National Association of Regional Councils. It's just an FYI for those of you that are out there. We shared this with the Technical Advisory Committee and Citizens Advisory Committee. I wanted to make sure that you saw it too. It's probably one of the better summaries that you can look at, given the fact that the bill itself is thousands of pages long. The bottom line here for transportation involves public transit, where there is an allocation of, trying to find it here.
About 30 billion.
300, I'm sorry, 30 billion?
I think it's about 30 billion total.
Yeah, 30 billion with a B, $30 billion, which has been allocated to transit. Now, the devil is in the details on how that trickles down. I would suspect that a lot of that will come down in the way of operating assistance, simply because every transit system in the United States lost about 80% of its ridership in the last year, given the pandemic and the lockdowns that we had during that time period. It's a matter of rebuilding confidence again in the public transit system, and that's just going to take time. Anyway, this is just here as an FYI for those of you to pass along.
Lou, correct me if I'm wrong. Lou and I just talked about this yesterday. I think BT share is going to be, what was it, 2.8 million?
2.2 million.
2.2 million. Okay.
And I don't know how much of that will be allocated to capital. I think this is what this is predominantly in the form of operating assistance and what I would call PPP, public protection plans to keep the employers going so the employees get paid. That's all I have.
Thank you, Patrick.
Uh-huh.
Moving on, seeing no hands raised or comments. I did want to state that Scott Robinson did put in the chat that he is proxy for Mayor Hamilton. Old business, final draft fiscal year 2022 Unified Planning Work Program.
Okay, last month we presented to you the draft Unified Planning Work Program, and we submitted that for review with the Indiana Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, and the Federal Transit Administration. They came back to us with no comments, 0 comments. The only thing that they asked us to do was change the word draft to final on the cover page, which we did. And then we made an addition in here on page 4. This was as a result of a conversation with Penny Githens prior to the meeting. On page 4, inadvertently, there was some text missing there regarding the school corporation, Monroe County Community Consolidated School Corporation. That has been added in. Then the other fact that we added in, Ryan, if you'll go down to the tables on page 9, 10, 11. Yes, there you go. Thank you so much. This is what I would call the base budget, which we presented to you last month, coming in at a total of $341,357, broken out by fund, by matching agency, funding source, and summary budget. Then following that, immediately following that on page 11, if you could scroll down to page 11. Okay, page 11. Now this is a brand new table, which you did not see last month. Page 11, page 12, and page 13 are the same 3 tables that preceded, except we have added in $50,000 in federal funding. This is excess planning money that we, the staff, had left over from fiscal year 2020. We've added in $50,000, allocated that to Bloomington Transit in all 3 cases, and there's a match there of $12,500, a total of $62,500, bringing our budget up to $403,857. Now, the extra money that we've added in here was at the request of Bloomington Transit so that they can begin an initial undertaking of a consultant-led study. The consultant-led study will be a fuel assessment and alternative fuels and infrastructure assessment study. This will examine a conversion of the diesel fleet into either compressed natural gas or total electric, or a combination, optimal combination thereof. And so those are the only changes we've made, other than at the very end of the document. Ryan, if you scroll way down there to page, I think it's 65, somewhere around in there. Yeah, thank you. Whoa, too far. Back up. Okay, there we go. And then we added in an adoption resolution. And that was a last minute addition. The Department of Transportation in Indianapolis asked us to add an adoption resolution because minutes aren't enough. Minutes of a meeting and a recording aren't enough. They want an adoption resolution too. And as a result of their request, we said, yes, sir, 3 bags full. And so there's our adoption resolution. So those are the only changes that we've made to the document since the last time we met a month ago. And I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you, Patrick. Anyone
I'd like to move approval of the final Unified Planning Work Program for fiscal years 2021 and 2022, and the adoption resolution for that.
Second.
We have a motion and Steve seconded. Do we have any comments or questions from the board? Do we have any public comment or questions? I'm not seeing any.
Not that I'm seeing either.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Do you want to do a roll call?
Sure. All right, we'll start with McDaniel,
Yes.
Boland,
Yes.
Ridge,
Yes.
Wiltz,
Yes.
Wallman,
Yes.
Githens,
Oops, sorry, yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Clements,
No,
Robinson,
Yes.
Nickel,
Yes.
Samples,
Yes.
Band.
Yes.
Thank you. That is 11-1.
Thank you. Moving on to new business, Coordinated Human Services Public Transportation Plan.
Hey, this is a very brief PowerPoint, and I won't belabor this. The consultant for this project, the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan, the 2021 update, the last plan was produced by the staff in 2012. The consultant for this is RLS and Associates. They were hired and selected, and they're actually under contract with the Indiana Department of Transportation Public Transit Division. And the consultant, Christy Campbell, who also produced the route optimization plan for rural transit 2 years ago. She made this presentation to the Technical Advisory Committee and the Citizens Advisory Committee last month. And all we wanted to do as a staff was just share this with you and also identify the fact that the public transportation survey is still underway. We are doing outreach right now. In fact, I was emailing her prior to the meeting. I'll be talking with her after the meeting. We are forming an advisory, what's called an advisory committee, or what's it called? A focus group. I'm sorry, not an advisory committee. We're creating a focus group of key agencies within the Monroe County, Bloomington area. And we intend to have a meeting sometime around the first or the second week of May. And we will keep you advised on that. If we meet again around the 1st or the 2nd of May, then that means next month when we meet with you, we'll be able to give you an update at that time. And I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone may have. Some of this is redundant in the fact that it reviews the 2012 strategies and talks about mobility management. And our purpose here will be ensuring that the agencies that we had in 2012 are still covered again, and any new agencies that have come into existence since that time are also covered by the plan.
Thank you, Patrick. Looks like Kate has a question.
Yes. So looking at the PowerPoint slides in the packet, it's just a little out of context for me. So I was wondering, the data that are presented under the titles, what changes could be made, and there's a bar graph and then comments and suggestions on the following slide. Are those from 2012?
I'm sorry, just a second, I'm flipping.
Sure thing.
Is this what
These are, no, these are,
Yes,
these are
that's what I'm
current.
talking about.
Okay.
These are current responses. The respondents that we've had to the survey thus far, these are the responses that we've received.
How many total responses have you received?
I don't know what I honestly don't know what the total is. I mean, when we met last month, the total respondents were only something like 13.
Yeah.
And
we don't have an update in the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
No, and I have, and that's my fault. I didn't ask for a total update up to this point in time, up to this meeting.
So they're pulling this out of an ongoing survey.
Yes. Yes. These represent this. This is a running total showing what they've received up to this point in time. Does that help?
Yeah, to me, that makes them rather meaningless, I guess. So yes, it helps.
Well, to me, it would say preliminary stamped all over it.
Yeah.
To be continued. I mean, whenever you've got an incomplete survey, to me, it's just gibberish.
Yeah, there's really no way to
there's no value
interpret any of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the purpose of forming a focus group, is that meeting with the focus group in another 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we can go over it. Hopefully we'll have more complete data at that time, survey data, and then we can go over that with them, pair the survey data results along with what those individual peer agencies see or foresee in the way of their priorities, either existing or in the future, and then match those up and then develop strategies and priorities from there.
So I sent you kind of my email. I think you got that, and I appreciate your considering kind of some of those suggestions and thoughts. So I won't belabor that point. If you keep scrolling in the presentation, and you get to the maps,
yes,
are those meant to inform the current survey that's going on?
No, this is based on the 2010 census.
So
it's the best information that we have at the current time. The 2010 census, and this is based on the American Community Survey, which was updated in 2019. It says it down there in real small print. The American Community Survey does estimates. They take 2010 census data and then they update it periodically every couple of years with sample surveys, statistically significant sample surveys. And so this is actually based on 2019 data of what they know. Of 0% of zero vehicle households, and then also population 65 and over, and then a list of the individuals with disabilities in Monroe County and the city of Bloomington. Now, I might note here that the consultant RLS and Associates is also working with rural transit simultaneously, but they're working with rural transit outside of the urbanized area. So what we have here is exclusively for what I would call the MPO area. I don't have access to the information they're working with rural transit.
Sure. I'm sorry, just one last question, which would be right after the maps, the individuals with disabilities, yeah, that graph. Is that supposed to be like the percent incidence in the population?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh,
The current, which
is that self-identified through a survey?
I think it's developed through the American Community Survey. Let me ask.
Okay.
Let me ask because it doesn't have a source.
And I assume that we're using a very broad definition of disability if it's the percentages or
I would think
like
so
that.
too, because these are shockingly high numbers.
Yes.
I mean, 11 and 9%, my God. The first thing that came out of my mouth was yikes. So I'm not sure what the definition of disabilities is. And that's something we can clarify for you too.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Okay, Steve?
Patrick, do you have a figure, like I'm looking at the percentage of zero vehicle households. It shows it sort of by census block, I guess. Do you have like a summary for the city and for the county? Like what percentage overall of zero vehicle households are there?
I don't have it, but I can get that for you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Percentage. Okay, you'd like the percentage of zero
vehicle households, like for the whole city and for the county as a whole. Just it's only got the divided by census block, and it'd be nice to have totals.
Sure, I can do that.
And Ellettsville too. I don't want to leave Ellettsville out. Let's throw them in too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to Pamela.
Okay, we'll do that. I'll get you the answer.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Patrick.
Sure.
I am not seeing Margaret.
Hi.
I'm seeing Margaret. Not just...
Thank you. Really almost nothing in this presentation from this consultant has any face validity. And even this chart on the percent of zero vehicle households, it just doesn't have face validity. Neither did the chart on the households with disabilities. And the data aren't very well defined. And I'd just like to make a request that we have better sourcing and better explication of the sampling size. I'm concerned about the focus groups and how they're going to be gathered. And I just have a lot of concerns about making decisions based on data like this or on purposively sampled focus groups. I'd like us to be clear about who we're asking, who we're including, who we're excluding, and so that we can make some, robust policy recommendations.
Would you like me to have the consultant reach out to you?
Sure.
I can do that.
That would be great.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because she's the expert. She's been doing this all over the United States. And she's also deeply familiar with this area, having been a previous resident of the area.
Okay, great.
So she would know all of that. Okay.
Great, thank you. You can also feel free to give her my telephone number.
Okay. Well, what we'll probably do is have her arrange a video conference of some type.
Perfect.
Typically that's much better than a phone call.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, I just wanted to follow up on that question. I was curious. I mean, at least some of this data is coming from the Census Bureau's ACS. I'm not sure how much more detailed any consultant could get than data provided by the census. Is there some more data, Margaret, that you are looking for, or?
Well, actually, I'm going to talk to the gentleman who formed that ACS for Bloomington, because I do happen to know him. There are some areas that stick out that are a little problematic, and I can maybe follow up on that and get back with you. But
Well, I just didn't know if you knew of some source better than the census to get data like the zero vehicle household chart, for example. So I'd love to hear what you find out.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And everyone should be cognizant of the fact that the real census data is still behind the curtain, so to speak.
Sure. I mean, we know these are estimates, but.
Yeah, and I mean, the information that the last email I had from the Census Bureau was that preliminary numbers will come out in August or September of this year. Since those are all fraught with political implications, there's been a delay because of that. Those were originally scheduled to come out in December of last year, but then again, all of us know what the reasons were that they were postponed, because they were wildly inaccurate, and therefore they did a number of follow-ups.
Did they ever go back and finish the surveys?
Yes.
Okay.
They filled the data gaps.
Good.
And therefore the report didn't come to Congress until March. So as a result of that, the real number, and they're still crunching numbers, and that's why we're looking at August or September. I mean, the most likelihood right now is September, before preliminary numbers will come out. And then we're not sure what'll come out. We think it'll just be the general population data more than anything else.
Patrick, do you have a sense of, one of the biggest existential problems for the census in Monroe County is that, like students or not, they do represent population, and the census day happened right during the lockdown. Do we know if and how they counted students?
We know that the university, and Jason can jump in here at any time, we know that there was an extensive effort on the part of the university to ensure that the students were counted. And I believe there was an extensive effort on the part of the city also to ensure that they were counted.
That's correct. Yep. And our registrar's office actually worked with them on the numbers.
Okay.
It's good to hear. Very good to hear.
With that, I mean, I'd really like more information on that aspect, because in terms of impoverished households and households that require assistance with affordable housing, the number of white 18 to 24-year-olds is extraordinarily high, and second largest contingent group is Asian males. So I would like to know more about how the registrar was involved in whether or not dependent students were considered independent in the census, because there's a lot that just doesn't add up in all this.
That's a common thing I found, Margaret, with small metros that are at the smallest level. Metros that report the greatest poverty are either on the border with Mexico, in the Rust Belt, or their college towns. So I share your concern, like when it comes to poverty numbers. But yeah, overall, just methodology of, first of all, were students counted, and secondly, what are the hard numbers? Patrick, will those numbers come out in 22, like the more detailed numbers, do you think?
The detailed numbers will definitely come out in 22, and I would expect those to be out in January, February of 2022.
That's great. Okay,
no later than that. It's simply because they've got to go through congressional apportionment districts and all of that.
Yep.
Those are mandatory deadlines that are coming up.
Right.
So, yeah. And pardon me if my memory's a little fuzzy, because it's been 10 years since I've done this. Okay. Questions?
Comments?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything in chat. So communications from committee members, non-agenda items, topics, suggestions for future agendas.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate something I said before the meeting started, because a lot of you weren't online yet. I just read in Time Magazine, there are two very interesting articles about transportation in this latest issue. And if you're curious or interested, it's worth a look. One of them was about the negative impacts on transit ridership because of the pandemic. And the second one was about the creation and research into electric vehicles, which focused on cars, not buses. But if you get a chance, it's worth a look.
Thanks for sharing that. Steve?
Yeah, this is tangential, but since we were talking about the census, I want to put out a call to anybody who's interested. That 10 years ago, when we did reapportionment for the city, I was the author of the city's drawing of the districts. City council members should not draw their own districts. And so we've created a redistricting commission for the city, and we're looking for people who live within the city limits who are Democrats, Republicans, or independents, students and non-students. And if you know anybody who would like to serve on this commission to redraw the city's districts, please apply at the city council office as soon as you can, or ask me questions afterwards. Happy to answer them. Thank you so much.
Steve, I wish the state would do the same thing.
Well, we figured why we can't tell the state that they should do it until we do it ourselves. So we've done it. And, you know, now, I mean, I don't want to have to draw the maps again. So somebody come and draw the city maps. If you know anybody who lives in the city, we need 6 applicants from each party, Democrat, Republican, and unaffiliated. We need students. We need people from all walks of life that have to be in the city limits. Thanks so much.
Thank you. That's excellent.
If I may?
Yes. Go ahead.
Sure.
Oh, thank you. So Steve, just wanted to compliment you for bringing that up and compliment the city for taking that on, because the time before that, it was me. And I was on the bipartisan committee of 4 Democrats and me. Redrew the lines in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
It was Dr. Pizzo, and it may have been Jim Sherman. I can't remember. He may have been gone by then. But in any event, we sat in a room, and in 15 minutes, we had it all figured out. So I compliment you and the city for taking this step. I think it should be a more inclusive process.
Well, I appreciate that. And just to follow up on that, the process is guaranteed no more than 2 years. And in fact, it's already started. We have to have the maps drawn by the end of 22. So in case anyone's worried about being an excessive commitment, please don't be. We also are going to try to give input to the county commissioners as they redraw precincts, because the precincts are how we have to draw city council maps. And so, you know, like we want to make sure that we at least have some advice for them, if any, that might affect us in 22.
Well, if I remember correctly, they do get very far out of whack over those 10 years. I mean, the population differences from highest to lowest at that time 20 years ago was, I mean, substantial. And so it's a good practice to go through. But again, hats off to you and the city for doing this the right way.
Much obliged. And it's going to be very interesting and educational. The task of it is actually, as I think Jason would agree, is certainly interesting. And it's a great way to get involved with local government.
Thank you. Kate?
I was just wondering, Steve, do you know when the deadline for applying is?
Let's just say that applications have been slow. Okay. So we are definitely, it's a new commission and it only comes up once every 10 years. So it doesn't have a huge constituency. So we are really taking all comers. They have to have voted at least once in the past 2 elections. So that's an important thing. And if they're applying for a Democratic or a Republican seat, they have to have voted in the primary. So that's about the only significant distinction there. Okay. But yeah, there's no, we haven't got a full complement. We actually need 18 applicants, and then we're going to choose 9 of them at random. like one for each seat. So that way there's no way that the deck can be stacked. So yeah, there'll be 6 Republicans and 3 chosen at random, 6 Democrats, 3 chosen at random, 6 unaffiliated, 3 chosen at random. So yeah, so we need 18 applicants and we don't have that many yet. So, you know, it's not like the time limit's running out. Sooner you can do it, the better.
Thank you. And Steve, I don't know if you saw Margaret's question about sending the link for the redistricting to her.
Oh, I will put it in I'll dig it up as soon as I can here. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, so the next technical advisory committee meeting is April 28th, 2021 at 10 a.m. and it'll be virtual. The Citizens Advisory Committee will also be April 28th at 6:30 p.m., which will be virtual. And then the next policy committee meeting is May 14th at 1:30 and it will be mutual.
Move to adjourn.
There's the link.
Great.
Second.
Steve, thank you, Steve.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you. Everyone enjoy your day.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.